Mann som öklar snusbullar.
Hello YouTubes, hello world. It's Shawna once again from DisruptApps LLC, and we are moving right along with our tutorial series. And in the last tutorial, we learned about multi-dimensional arrays. We learned how to structure them, and we came down here and we used a multi-dimensional array to make our nav menu item appear, right? Instead of coding it out line by line in the HTML, we have our script that we have here, the nav menu render script, and we leverage the power of JavaScript, and we leverage the power of template strings and string interpolation to take our structured multidimensional array up here, and we use the 0 index or the 0 position to grab all of our page names, right, our HTML page names, and we put it here for href with the string interpolation methodology. And then we use the second position, or the number 1 index, second position. We put it here in our text that we actually see. So this is a really cool way efficient way to code repetitious code and make it easier for us to manage changes. And so in this lesson, I want to introduce and talk about the inbuilt math object and some of its properties and methods. And I will also talk about the Math.Random method. And the random content generator application that I built, I heavily use the math object, and I use the Math.Random method. And so in this tutorial, I want to lay the groundwork for using those in the random content generator application. And we will be working primarily in our console just for ease of demonstration. So JavaScript has an inbuilt math object, and you can see that it's a reserved word, it's a keyword, and it turns blue when you type it. So you can't use the word math as a variable anywhere in your JavaScript. It won't work. You just can't use it standalone. So this object has a lot of different inbuilt properties and methods, and you can come in here and you can hit math dot, and you can see here you've got a whole bunch of different properties in here, and some of these and methods. You see we have a random method here, right? So let's do math.py, and you can see in this case it's capitalized. The syntax is capitalized. So let's do a console.log, and we'll just go ahead and cut and paste, and we will notice that it's on line 10. Control S to save. Let's come to our web page. Let's open our developer tools, refresh, and we have 3.1459 blah 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 blah, and that's on line 10. So you can, if you're working with pies, if you're a baker, sorry, if you're a mathematician and you need to use pi, well, you can use pi. So let's see what else we can find here. We have logs. If you remember logs, those are the things that you cut down a tree and then you hack it some more, and that's what you have laying in the forest floor, right? A log. Oh my god, that was a terrible joke. But we have our logs in here, so let's go ahead and hit log 10e and see what that spits out. And you got 0.43 da, 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 and you can harken back to your high school or college days and remember what those things are, right? So math dot, now we can come down here, we can see trigonometry stuff, cosine and sine and tangents and cotangents and all that kind of stuff here, right? So let's look at one thing I want to cover is all the way down here, Math.Round. And so what we need to do is we need to put a number or an integer in this in the parentheses. So let's go ahead and put 7.3. And if you remember back in your math days, rounding up and rounding down, the breakpoint is, remember, the breakpoint, I'm going to go ahead and just, is always 0.5. Remember, 0.5 is the breakpoint, right? And if it's, if the decimal here, the tenths place or whatever is equal to or greater than 5, then we're going to round up. And then if it's lower than, we are going to round down. Elementary math, my dear Watson. So what happens if we do Math.round 7.3? Well, let's find out. We'll come here and it rounds down to 7. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, so we got 7. So what happens if we have 7.5? Control S to save, refresh, and it rounds up to 8. What happens if we 7.4999999? Control S to save, we'll hit refresh, and it rounds down to 7. All right, so yeah, so JavaScript has an inbuilt Math.round function, and you need to pass an integer, or you can even pass a decimal, which is a float, into your parentheses here. Now, so what happens if you want, if we, for fun, let's break it and put 7.7 as a string. Well, let's see what happens. Well, it actually works, which is one of those things with JavaScript you're just going to have to learn. So in this case, you don't have to change the type of it. You don't have to explicitly cast it to an integer. This function, this round method, actually will go ahead and do it for you. It'll interpret it for you as a number, and it'll spit out an integer or number of 8. So just be aware of that. But that is not a good practice you want to use. So you don't want to use strings. You always want to use either an whole integer or a float, right? Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is a thing called Math.floor. And let's go ahead and Math.floor. And then we need open and closing parentheses. Let's go ahead and use 7.77 because it's my lucky day. So round, as we saw, you do up or down, right? So with floor, I like to think of floor and its counterpart, ceiling, like gravity. Like if you're a science fiction fan, things get sucked to the floor or sucked to the ceiling depending on where your gravity is. And the way that I like to see floor is like you think of floor in real life. Gravity is going to pull you down to the floor. So whatever your integer here is, whatever your whole number is, no matter what you put in here, whether it's the jargon I'm typing in here or this or whatever, it doesn't matter. Or it could be 7.7 or it could be 7.3. It doesn't matter. So what's going to happen is it's going to ignore this and drop it down to the floor. It's going to drop it down to 7. And that's why I say gravity to the floor. That's the way I like to think of it. But it just basically, it removes the decimals and drops you down to the integer. And I hate to say base, but let's just think of it as a base integer, 7, right? So let's go ahead and Control S to save, and let's see what happens. Come here, refresh, and it's 7. So let's go ahead and change this. Let's go ahead and copy that and do 7.99999, right? So you would think, well, this would go up, you know, if we're doing round, Math.round, this would go up to 8. But we're saying, hey, no, gravity's gonna operate and drag us to the floor. So we're gonna drop down to 7. Now, all right, so now let's do the antithesis, the nemesis of floor, Math.floor, and that's going to be the ceiling, which will pin us to the next higher whole integer. Okay, and it's going to remove the decimals and pin us to the ceiling. So think of a building in space. You have floors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, the ceiling is going to say, hey, gravity's going to say, we're going to the ceiling. Gravity's going to say, we are going to pull you to the ceiling. Okay, so we'll do console.log, and then we'll come in here and we will do Math.ceil, and you can see ceiling here. That's the shorthand for it, pair of parentheses. So let's go ahead and pass in 7.37. And let's see what happens here on line 18. We'll come here, we'll hit refresh, and here on line 18 we have 8. So it's saying, hey, 7.37, I want you to become the whole number, the whole integer 8. How about we do 7.00001? Control S to save, refresh. Hey, we're still going to go to 8 on 18, right? And no matter where you are in this number, within the realm of the 7 integer, from 7000 to 7.99999, you're going to get, ceiling is going to suck you up to the ceiling, to the next number, the next floor. It'll be number 8. And so I wanted to go over Math.floor and Math.ceiling just to touch base so you have a concept of what these do. And again, we'll be using Math.floor in the random content generator. So with all that, let me go ahead and just comment all of this out so we won't see it anymore. The next thing I want to talk about is Math.random. Okay, and this is a method called Math.random. So let's go ahead and just console log what this will spit out for us. And this is basically, in Math.random, you have our math object, and it says, hey, we're going to pick a random, in this case, the way that they have it designed, with the random, if you don't put parameters in here, is it's just going to give you a number between 0.00000 and 1.0000. And let me go ahead and demonstrate that to you. I'll paste it here. Control S to save, come back to our page and hit refresh. So you can see here we have 0.9169 yada 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 yada. Okay, now let's hit it again, and we have 0.7680, and then once again 0.178029, once again 0.634 yada yada yada. So whenever they design JavaScript and the random function, whenever they design it, they said we're going to pick a number. We're going to pick a number between 0.00000 to 1.0000000. Somewhere in there, we're going to pick some decimal float. And you're asking, well, this does me no good. I can't make integers. How is this going to work? Because I'm just getting decimals, right? So if we actually want to have something usable with Math.random, we need to use what we talked about up here earlier, the Math.floor. And the way that when they built JavaScript and they designed it, is that if you want to spit out a usable, quote unquote, usable number, is that you can put some arguments in the floor parentheses to make it to where you can spit out a number range that you explicitly tell it to using this certain syntax that I'm going to show you now. So what you do is you take your Math.floor, you take your Math.Random, and you'll put it in here, and then you'll put an asterisk, and we'll say 10. So what this is telling, what this syntax does with the floor and in tandem with Math.Random and all of this syntax, is it's going to say, hey, get me a number and floor it. Remember, floor to the bottom of our gravity well. And I want you to spit out a number between 0 and 10. And what this 10 here does is it tells it this is its upper limit, the upper range of your number domain. Okay, so let's go ahead and just X that out, paste it in here. Let's go ahead and comment that out. So console.log Math.floor random and then asterisk and 10. Control S to save, come back to our page, refresh, and you can see here on line 26, I'm refreshing, you get 1, 4, 5, 9, 5, 6. Cool. Okay. So you can come in here and you can change this, let's say 50. Control S to save. And let's see what happens. 41, 25, 34, 29, 43, 47, 2, 32, 11, 20. Okay, so you can set basically your parameters of the range you want, right? And that this is the way they designed it to spit out random numbers with this methodology of random numbers. And you just need to use Math.Random in conjunction with the Math.floor and this syntax to create a random whole number, or what we say in computer science, an integer, or mathematics, an integer. And one thing I need to clarify is I used 10. You will never get 10. No matter how many times you do this, you will never get 10, because what you always have to think this is like one less. So if you want 10, you need to put 11. These go to 11. No, they don't. So now, hopefully we'll get lucky and we'll get a 10. I give it a 10, a MF10. Maybe I need to save it. I give it a 10. I get an MF10. There we go. We got lucky. We got a 10 on the third click. So this way, you know, like, well, why am I not getting 10? How come I'm not getting 10? Well, you got to go one more to include into your range. So I needed to make that clear. And we're going to be using this quite a bit for our random content generator. Now we've just been logging this entire syntax, and what you can do is you can set this to a variable. We'll say random num, which is short for random number. Random number is equal to our Math.floor, Math.Random, and I need to fix my syntax here. We're basically saying random number is equal to this method that we spit out. We're saying that random number is equal to Math.floor, Math.Random, asterisk 11. So we'll be generating our random numbers 1 through 10 here. And we just, instead of passing that all this in here, we just go ahead and pass the variable in here. Control S to save, come back to our page, refresh, and you can see I'm just hitting the refresh button, and I don't know why so we're getting a bunch of random numbers. Don't mind my web browser, my computer's being stupid. But you can see we are getting random numbers. Let's do more numbers, larger number set. So you can see we're getting a bunch of random stuff. Cool. Alrighty. Alright, so that's a brief overview of the math object, some of the properties and methods, and an overview of the random method, and then how we actually spit out and get usable random integers, random numbers that we'll use. Alright, and with that, I'm going to get another splash of coffee, start editing this video, and this afternoon work on my peer-to-peer file browsing system that I've been making in C++. So happy coding. Bye bye.